So our topic we've got here is digital piracy. So just an introduction as to what it is. It's the term used making some unlawful copyrighted music, games, software, electronics, and so on, stuff like that. With the rise of internet, piracy becomes a bigger problem as time passes. Many copies of mainstream content is just often stolen without the actual permission for it. While it doesn't really harm the original as it still exists, it can potentially harm the owner that created the original, as it could lead to possible failed sales. Some of these popular digital piracy sources, they can consist of websites that can offer downloadable live streaming, peer-to-peer networks, online auction sites, cloud services, and cyber. So looking at Lessig's free culture piracy, they explain many forms of big media are endangered and lots of illegal actions have been performed as stated by them. Some of these big sectors were even born of piracy. Film industry of Hollywood was originally built from fleeing pirates that migrated to escape the controls that patents granted the inventor of filmmaking, Thomas Edison. What these controls were based around was basically Edison's creative properties of filmmaking. But nowadays, what's stopping someone from just downloading films or shows from an online piracy website or watching like a bootleg version of it? Recorded music was also born of another piracy. Originally in the 19th century, the law would enforce only composers could have the exclusive right to control these copies of their own music pieces that they created. People who wanted the access to this sort of music would have to buy a copy by the law. But those who didn't wish to buy it could just use a voice recorder and basically record their own voice in a private space, which was during the time quite an efficient way of pirating someone else's work. Continuing with his free culture piracy, radios were also born of piracy, similar to how the voice recording works. Radios perform a copy of the composer's work and broadcast it live for the world to hear. While it is the voice of a recording artist, only the composer who wrote up anything that they're saying will technically gain any credit for it. An example in this action they summarize is to imagine yourself creating a musical piece and a celebrity decides to sing it on the radio. So they actually will need to gain your permission to obviously do so. Otherwise, they are technically performing piracy. To take it further, if this song that they sung became huge and started playing on the radio every time, you would be basically getting some money out of that, as it was your work. The public performance of their recording is not actually protected to begin with, and the radio station can easily abuse this and pirate the value of that celebrity's work without actually paying them a cent.
Lessing speaks about the record industry during the 1900s, in which they first began to create laws, which gave composers the exclusive right to control copies of their music and the right to control public performance of music. Lessing's first type of media piracy related to those who would take an item of media without purchasing to be used for their own personal enjoyment. The second type of media piracy was those who reviewed that list above the intent of buying after. despite this being an abuse of copyright, it can possibly benefit the artist. The third type was individuals who have access to pieces of media, which aren't technically commercially available. Despite it being an abuse of copyright law, it doesn't create a loss to media. And finally, the last type of media piracy lesson speaks about is those who download pieces which are not or were never copyrighted. And that is the only type of piracy which is considered illegal. So Lawrence further touches on many of the Walt Disney classics, which was pirated. In 1928, a cartoon character called Steamboat Willie was created, which soon evolved to become Mickey Mouse. Within this year, synchronized sound had just been introduced to film, and this led Walt Disney to copy techniques and begin to experiment using sound with cartoons. The effect on using union of sound and motion on his audience became a major hit. And so he claimed that synchronizing sound was like to a form of creativity that had rarely, except in Disney's hands, been anything more than filler for other films. In that year, a comic genius called Buster Keaton wrote his last independently produced silent film called Steamboat Bill Jr. This silent film was wildly popular and among the best of its genre at the time. Steamboat Bill Jr. appeared before Disney's cartoon called Steamboat Willie, and this coincidental title is not a coincidence at all, as Buster Keaton's invention of Steamboat Bill Jr. was inspired by the song Steamboat Bill, in which we get Steamboat Willie created by Disney, and then finally the creation of Mickey Mouse. This borrowing was not unique for Disney, as they were constantly parodying films at that time. The key to Disney's success was the use of sound, and later it was the quality of whose work all built up from a base that was borrowed. Movies like Snow White, Pinocchio, Dumbo, Cinderella, Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty, and many others were created from mixing already built ideas with Walt Disney's already his own talent and his creativity. And since the term copyright only lasted around 30 years from the creation of a work, at the end of the term, the work passes into the public domain. So no permission from the creator is needed in order to use the work. And therefore, most of the content during this time was free for Walt Disney to use. The Piracy. The word borrows is a modern slang for software pirates who partake in illegal collection of copyrighted content available in digital form. The Warriors Group follows a procedure in releasing these contents, beginning with suppliers who obtain the content to be released by copying from producers, hacking into corporate networks, videotaping movies, etc. Crackers are members of Warriors Group who removes copyright protection for content in order to be released. And these crackers are able to remove even the most elaborate copyright protection, often hours before it's released. Hackers act as tools for release coordinators. So once the copyright status is cleared, the product must be packed in scene compliant volumes, and informed when a new release needs to be packed and uploaded. This happens in a matter of minutes for an experienced packer to place large releases and then upload it into a private website. Preen is the stage where the release is uploaded to a group site. And top sites are highly secretive, high-speed FTP servers used for distribution, storage, and archive of Warriors releases. Top sites have high bandwidth internet connection and can support transfer speeds of millions to thousands of megabytes per second. Couriers are members of the Warriors Group who distribute pirated content from site to site, and they ensure that each release is spread, starting from the top level site down to the small site. Next sites is scene sites, which secure the data warehouse used for piracy. And finally, Cedar is a client that has a complete copy of the data of a certain torrent.
The music that we have from our cell phones, as of recently, they pose as a threat due to the sales of recorded music, as they can easily allow children to download music and share it amongst themselves. With Bluetooth, it's possible for songs to be transferred between headsets at the touch of a button, but only one at a time. The greater threat stems from the falling price and expanding capacity of removable memory cards, which allows hundreds of songs to be transferred simply by just sharing that one card. Since all these songs are being given out to the public for free, illegally, the individuals who end up getting punished is the digital artist and the composer of the music instead.
Negative Land versus YouTube. Negative Land was an obscure, experimental group who were known for using other artists' copyrighted work, and then they would transform it in their own individual way. So in 1991, Negative Land released a single which was called YouTube, and that contained the YouTube spy plane and the lettering of YouTube. The YouTube is a button. And then Negative Land printed their own name under that on the cover. The recording included about 35 seconds of a YouTube song called I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. And despite Negative Land assuming that people would figure out that it wasn't a new YouTube album, as they were known for using other artists' work. Places like Tower Records, which is a record company, put up displays of the record album, thinking it was a new YouTube album. A few weeks after the release came out, Negative Land were hit with a 200-page lawsuit by YouTube, and they labeled called Island Records. This lawsuit provided allegations that the band and their label were guilty of trademark infringement, fraud, and copyright infringement. And Island Records demanded that every copy of the YouTube single and all other promotional material was to be turned over to the company and destroyed. In that month, Negative Land and their label lost a total of around $70,000, which was more than the band had made in around 11 years. And so they were pressured to settle out of court as they couldn't afford to prove themselves innocent. And so it resulted in the band being dropped from their label. The Pirate Cinema, it is a project by Nicholas and Margaret, which displays the hidden activity of peer-to-peer file sharing. And the Pirate Cinema is revealed as a monitoring room displaying many different peer-to-peer sharing happening in real time. We can trust it, like, but yeah, there are some like vaguely adult material.
But yeah.
So yeah, basically it just shows peer-to-peer sharing in real time.
Right down. Oh, there we go. So looking into NFTs, more so, yeah, the artwork side of things. So NFTs, they're non-fungible tokens. They consist of digital art being sold through the internet. The problem with NFT art is the knockoff NFTs are quite common, and they're hard to differentiate from the real deal to a fake, making it easy for pirates to scam using counterfeit NFTs. Since NFT artwork is digital, it's a much easier target for people to pirate with all the tools technology provides, like the snipping tool, or just simply taking a photo in any way. Oh, there we go. So just looking also into Starlink. So it's a website, enables video calls, online gaming, streaming, and other high data rate activities historically have not been possible with just satellite internet, although it's another target for digital piracy as people can download copyrighted materials freely from it without a license. And while Starlink is quite strict with this, the damage could already be done as the pirates spread the materials across other individuals, like a virus. Question. Yeah.